So imagine this, right? You're looking at these, like, GPR heat maps, glowing red and orange.
Yeah, hinting at something massive maybe, hidden right under your feet.
Totally. Or picture, like, a tiny snake robot sort of wriggling through some collapsed tunnel underground.
It's sensors searching for, well, who knows? Lost history? Ancient tech?
Or maybe even, dragons. Okay, maybe not dragons.
Huh, maybe not. But that mix, that blend of really cool science and these ancient mysteries, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Right, we've got this stack of sources, and it's a mix. Some serious science on archaeology tech.
And then some online forum stuff that goes into some, let's say, unconventional places, really out there ideas.
Which is why we're calling this one Cool, Weird, and Possible. We're going to unpack the cool tech, look at the weird theories from these sources.
And then sort of ask, okay, what might actually be possible now with these tools investigating these old questions?
It's definitely a journey. We've got research papers, bits from online discussions.
Yeah, from radar signals to, well, lost continents and theories about who's secretly running the show. It's quite the spread.
Okay, let's kick off with the tech side. How is technology just completely changing archaeology?
Oh, massively. I mean, for ages, it was basically careful digging and looking around on the surface.
Yeah.
Super important, but slow.
And you can only dig up so much or see what's obvious.
Exactly. But now, these new technologies, it's almost like giving archaeologists superpowers. Seriously.
Like X-ray vision for the ground or mapping huge areas super fast.
Pretty much. We're talking remote sensing, things like LiDAR that uses lasers, multispectral imaging, seeing light we can't see. And the two big ones in our sources today, GPR, ground penetrating radar, and SAR, which is synthetic aperture radar.
Okay, sorry, that sounds pretty high tech. From planes or satellites?
Often, yeah. And it basically sends out its own radio waves and listens for the echoes, like radar, but, synthetic aperture.
What's cool about it for archaeology?
Well, different types of SAR signals do different things. Like a short wavelength, X-band they call it, might just bounce off the leaves on top of a forest.
Okay.
But a longer one, L-band, can actually penetrate deeper, go through the leaves and bounce off bigger branches or even the ground underneath all that vegetation.
Whoa, so it can literally see through the jungle canopy.
In a way, yes. And how the signal is polarized, like, is it bouncing horizontally or vertically, tells you more about the texture and shape down there.
So you could map an entire ancient city hidden under a forest.
That's the idea. Or spot old field systems, canals, things totally invisible otherwise. That Manaus example in Brazil, finding ancient landscapes from space, that's SAR.
That's wild for big picture stuff, but what about looking, just a few feet down for specific structures?
Right, that's where GPR, ground penetrating radar, comes in. Think of it like sonar, but for dirt.
Okay.
You have an antenna, usually on a sled you drag across the ground, sending radio pulses down.
And that gives you those, like, heat map pictures we saw?
Yeah.
The reds and oranges?
Yep. Those are the visualizations. You get profiles, which are like cutting a slice down vertically, showing the depth and shape of things. And crucially, you get time slices. Those are like horizontal maps at different depths. Super useful for seeing the layout, the plan view of buried walls or ditches.
So you can see something is down there, maybe a foundation.
Exactly. You see anomalies, and the source talks about this dig in Japan, in Chiba Prefecture. They use GPR at these old burial mounds.
Or looking for.
Burial spots, mainly. But also how these big Haniwa figures, like clay statues, were arranged. GPR actually picked those up. And ditches, too.
And did the radar match what they found when they dug?
Largely, yeah. The GPR showed these distinct shapes underground, these reflections. And this is really important, they stress you have to follow up with excavation.
Why is that?
Because the GPR shows where something is, but not always what it is. Is that blob a burial pit, or just a weird patch of soil, or maybe, a robber's trench? Digging confirms it.
So tech points the way. Digging verifies.
Got it. Right. Combining them gives you the best picture.
It just sounds like these tools save an unbelievable amount of time.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the old ways. One source mentioned trying to survey the Nile floodplain with traditional coring, just drilling little holes.
Yeah.
It would take something like 13 years of field work, or over 100 seasons, just for a fraction of the area.
Wow.
Or another survey in Egypt, just visiting potential sites took 5 months of full-time walking around. This tech lets you scan huge areas non-invasively, find the hot spots.
And then focus the digging where it's most likely to pay off. Makes sense.
Exactly. It's a game changer for efficiency.
Okay, so the tech is amazing. saves time, sees the invisible.
Hmm.
But all that data, from satellites, GPR, LADAR,
Yeah.
it must be overwhelming.
That's spot on. And that's precisely where AI and robotics start to become really crucial partners for archaeologists.
Ah,
Yeah, when you combine all these different sensor types, you get what they call big data, just massive amounts of information.
too much for a person to sift through easily.
Way too much. So AI algorithms running on powerful computers are needed to process it all, to find patterns, correlations, things a human might just miss.
So AI is more about crunching the numbers than like actually digging with a robot.
Well, it's both, really. The data analysis is huge, building complex 3D models of sites by layering all this info, but robotics is definitely advancing too.
Smarter robots.
Yeah, robots that can navigate tricky sites on their own using AI. Maybe even make decisions in the field, like, this spot looks interesting, let's scan more over here.
And potentially even do some delicate digging eventually.
That's the long-term vision. And think about those snake robots you mentioned, or other bio-inspired designs. Robots shaped like animals to get into tight spots.
Or burrowing robots. Cool.
And swarm robotics imagine lots of little robots working together, coordinating to cover a big area efficiently.
And the AI they carry is getting smarter too. Not just collecting data, but analyzing it right there.
Exactly. Real-time analysis, adapting the mission on the fly. The sources also mention things like explainable AI, or XAI.
Give that.
Making sure the AI can actually explain why it flagged something as interesting. Builds trust, you know? So the archaeologist knows it's not just a random glitch.
Right. You need to understand its reasoning.
Definitely. And concepts like federated learning to protect data, multimodal AI to handle different beta types together, even looking ahead to quantum computing for super complex simulations.
So it sounds like the idea is AI as a helper, a tool, not a replacement.
Yeah.
Like a digital colleague.
That's exactly the term used in one source. It tackles the question, could archaeologists be replaced by AI? And the answer seems to be a firm no. Yeah, AI handles the heavy lifting, the data processing, maybe creates these digital twins, interactive 3D models you can explore virtually. But the interpretation, understanding the culture, making the judgment calls.
That's still the human archaeologist.
Absolutely. It augments their skills, lets them do more, see more. But the human brain is still driving the discovery. There are even tools like that GeoPache AI app mentioned, designed for that kind of teamwork.
Okay, wow. So that's the cool tech side covered. Incredibly powerful stuff.
Definitely.
But this deep dive also took us into some different territory. Sources that touch on these big old mysteries and some ideas that are, well, let's just say weird.
Right. This is where we get into that online forum discussion. And yeah, it goes places, starting with Atlantis.
Ah, the classic lost continent.
Yeah.
What were people saying about it in this source?
It was a real mix. Some folks thought, yeah, probably existed in some form, maybe not this super advanced utopia, but like an important ancient center that got wiped out.
An inspiration for the myth?
Possibly. Or one idea I found interesting was maybe there wasn't just one Atlantis, but loads of them.
How does that work?
Thinking about all the flood myths around the world, maybe lots of coastal civilizations got drowned over time, and Atlantis became a sort of catch-all term for that kind of lost world.
Huh. Interesting angle.
Others pointed to Plato. He described it in such detail. They argue that suggests it was real, even if we can't find clear proof.
Like Troy. People thought that was just a story for ages.
Exactly, that parallel was drawn. They wrestle with why evidence is so elusive, but stick to the idea it was a real place.
Did they have theories on where it might have been?
Oh yeah. Ideas included the Americas, like before the flood myths, and Antarctica was mentioned.
Antarctica?
Yeah, though someone rightly pointed out it's a bit weird if the ancient Greeks knew about Antarctica but somehow missed North America. But theories fly around.
Okay, so far it's historical speculation, interesting puzzles. But then this Tibetan monk story comes up in the thread.
Right, and this is where we take a sharp turn into the definitely weird. This narrative is incredibly detailed and way out there.
How so?
It describes Atlantis not just as a city, but this huge alliance of kingdoms, and claims they had technology far beyond ours, like creating artificial life.
Creating mermaids and stuff.
Mermaids, seahorses, dolphins, even artificial people to be servants. That's what the source claims this monk story detailed.
Okay, that's a lot.
It gets wilder. This story apparently describes a massive war. The Atlanteans versus some extraterrestrial gods.
Gods, like aliens.
According to this narrative, yeah. Aliens who supposedly seeded humanity and were guiding us. But the Atlanteans, with their tech, thought they were equals and betrayed these gods.
Leading to?
An atomic war, a cataclysm that cracked continents, sank land masses, raised mountains, left the Earth irradiated for centuries.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's quite the backstory. But it didn't stop there, did it? The thread went even further.
No, it builds. It then expands into this full-blown conspiracy framework. Earth is described as like a farm.
A farm.
Yeah, and humanity. We're the livestock, apparently, living in some kind of fake reality.
Okay, and who's running this farm? Asking for a friend.
Well, this source points the finger squarely at the Draco reptilian empire.
Reptilians.
Right, and groups like the Freemasons are supposedly their minions on Earth. The source lists basically everything they control. Banking, media, pharma, oil, governments, courts, armies, science, Hollywood, you name it.
So, total control.
That's the claim in the source, yes, a really comprehensive list. And it gets darker, alleging these reptilians see humans as food and tying it to claims of millions of missing people.
Yikes.
Yeah. And they cite things like Veterans Today, Project Camelot, specific sources for these claims.
That is quite the deep dive into conspiracy land.
It really is. And look, it's super important we pause here and be crystal clear.
Right.
We are just relaying the information found in these specific sources we were given for this deep dive. We're absolutely not endorsing any of this, especially the really out there, potentially harmful or political stuff.
Absolutely. We're just showing you the spectrum of ideas that came up in the material, just reporting it.
Exactly. Transparency. The thread also briefly touched on flat Earth, and someone tried to link Atlantis to the historical mystery of the Sea Peoples. So a real grab bag.
Okay. So we have this precise, careful science using amazing tech to find real buried stuff.
Yep. Peer-reviewed methods, ground truthing data.
And then we have this online world tackling huge mysteries with these incredibly elaborate, speculative, sometimes fantastical theories.
Worlds apart in many ways.
So the big question then is, how do these connect, if at all? What does all this cool tech actually make possible when looking at these weirder ideas?
That's the fascinating intersection, isn't it? Could these tools, the GPR, the SAR, the AI, could they accidentally stumble onto something that lends credence to, or at least relates to, some of these wilder notions?
Like, could GPR find a structure that just looks weird, not like anything archaeologists expect?
Potentially. Or SAR could map an anomaly on the seabed that doesn't look natural. The tech can definitely reveal the unexpected. It's designed to find things that are hidden or different.
And could AI help spot those really subtle, odd patterns in the data that maybe hint at something unusual, something a person scanning the data might just dismiss?
That's definitely a theoretical possibility. AI is brilliant at finding faint signals and noise or connecting dots across huge data sets that humans wouldn't. It could flag anomalies that warrant a closer look.
But, and it's a big but, right?
It's a huge but. Finding an anomaly is step one. We go right back to that GPR study in Japan. The tech shows you something is there.
But you don't know what it is until you investigate properly.
Precisely. Is that weird blob on the GPR screen a lost Atlantean power generator? Or is it a collapsed cave? Or a pocket of dense clay? The tech finds targets. Archaeology does the interpretation and verification. You need that ground truth.
So you can't just point a GPR machine at the ground and say, aha, Atlantis.
Not even close. You need context, excavation, analysis. Human expertise is absolutely critical to make sense of what the machines are showing you. Jumping to conclusions based only on the tech data is really bad science.
It comes back to that human-AI collaboration idea again. The tech finds things, humans figure out what they mean.
Exactly. The tools let archaeologists overcome physical limits, see in new ways, process more data, but they don't replace the archaeologists' critical thinking, their knowledge of history, geology, culture. AI is the amazing assistant, not the boss.
And I guess that same critical thinking is vital when we look at the other sources too, right? The forum discussions, the wild theories.
Absolutely vital. Whether you're looking at a scientific data set or an online claim about reptilians, you have to ask the same questions. What's the evidence? Is this source reliable? Are there simpler explanations?
Makes sense. You need that filter for everything.
You really do. Especially when navigating the sheer volume of information and misinformation that's out there.
Okay, so wrapping this up. We've seen some incredible science transforming archaeology, tools letting us see underground, through forests, across vast areas.
Truly cool tech, and we explored the amazing potential of AI and robotics as partners in that discovery process.
And then We took a plunge into some deep internet rabbit holes, encountering theories about lost worlds, ancient tech, secret rulers, the whole spectrum, from intriguing mystery to, well, the truly bizarre.
Covering the cool, weird, and possible, it really makes you think about all the history still buried, all the questions we still have.
Maybe even right in your own backyard, who knows?
Yeah.
And how these tools, this ability to see beneath the surface, technologically and analytically, might just shift our whole understanding of the past.
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If these technologies, the scanners, the AI, keep getting better, letting us probe deeper, process more, what genuinely surprising things might we actually find? Things that maybe seem weird now, but turn out to be possible.
Could we uncover traces of civilizations or structures that force us to totally rethink history? Or maybe reevaluate some of those old myths in a new light? What's hiding just beyond the reach of our current tools?